I am Josh Busick, Regional Agency Director here at Symmetry Financial Group. I am direct to Trey Alderson Cloutier. I have been here so Alderson Cloutier, part of the Jimmy Spieldenter, Brian Delaney organization. Came here April 2016, April 1st, 2016. I started officially on April Fool's Day. My background prior to coming to here was, I grew up in a large family, not have a whole lot of money. And when we turned 16, our job was to start working at a grocery store full time, and then we did our schoolwork at night. But because of that, when I turned 18, then it was like, going to college didn't really seem like an option. So I just stayed at the grocery store cutting meat. And I was a meat cutter at the grocery store for well over 10 years. Got to the part that was hating it, did not like cutting meat at all, but didn't feel like I was qualified to do anything else. But as I started approaching my late 20s, realized that if I was ever going to buy a house, let alone retire one day, I was going to need to make more than $30,000 a year. So it was like, what are my choices now? Late 20s, do I go to college and get a degree and hope for my college degree is done, I find a good job, or do I get into sales? I had bought a car from a car dealership, and in the process of that, the sales manager started talking to me. He kind of planted the seed about sales in my mind, but I wasn't quite feeling like I was ready to do it. But I got to the spot where I was just sick and tired of cutting meat and knew I needed to do something. That one day I walked back in the dealership and I said, so, I'm making $30,000 a year right now. How many cars a month would I realistically need to sell in order to make $40,000 a year? And he said, well, if you sell 4 or 5 cars a month, you'll make $40,000 a year. I thought, okay, you guys are selling, a couple hundred cars a month as a dealership. I should be able to get 4 or 5 of them. So I was like, I'm in. So started there doing that. And my first week I sold 4 cars. So all of a sudden the light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, oh, wow, I wonder if I can make $100,000 a year selling cars. And that's what I did. My first year, made $100,000 a year. Second year, was the number 1 sales guy again. And they started moving me up into management. I became their, top sales manager. And for a while, I thought that was what I was looking for. I thought, yes, this was the answer. This is my savior of I'm making over $100,000 a year. That life is great. But 5 years into it, it's you start to hit this thing where it's I hit the top, and next year I'm going to work as hard as I can. They're going to up the sales goals on me, and then I'm just going to make the same amount that I do again. There's not a promise of a better tomorrow. So it started to feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, where I'm going to come in here and I'm going to bust my ass just to earn the right to bust my ass again next year. I kind of went as far with it as I could. And that was starting to have some dissatisfaction for me. It was because you lived at the dealership, you leave the house at 8:30 in the morning, come home 9, 10 o'clock at night. You don't really get a day off outside of Sunday. So I started to get dissatisfied with that. And I remember I had 2 weeks vacation. And I remember we all went to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, me and some of my brothers, to go fishing. And you leave early on Sunday morning, and you get there and you're all jacked up about a whole week off work and fishing. And I remember on Tuesday night, all of a sudden realizing, crap, tomorrow is Wednesday. I only got a couple days left. And I started to get this pit in my gut, to where I started realizing wait a minute, this is crazy. I can't even enjoy vacation. It's only Tuesday night and I'm already dreading going back. So I can't even truly enjoy my time off. And I knew I needed to change and didn't know what to do. So started looking around, started looking at different sales processes, other sales gigs, and everything looked the same, right? I call it same game, different name, right? Everybody's played Cards Against Humanity or some game, and then there's another version of it, and it's a different name, but if you read the directions, it's pretty much the same game, right? That's what I started seeing with sales gigs, is it was same game, different name. I could go make a good $100,000 a year, but it was going to be the same rat race where you have to work 60, 70 hours a week, and then there's no end in sight to it. And about that time, I was, got an email from Terry Mothershead. She had come across my resume on ZipRecruiter, I believe. I didn't even technically apply for the job. She came across my resume, shot me an email saying, hey, is this something you would be interested in talking about? And I looked at a little bit of the information. I went, I'm just desperate enough right now that I'll talk about it. And they set me up with an interview, talked to Trey Alderson Cloutier. He told me about his background and where he was at. And I was like, okay, this is sounding interesting. And then talked to Jimmy. And it just so happened that 3 weeks later, there was going to be a conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. And, I was like, well, I have a couple vacation days left. Trey said, why don't you come to the conference? Check it out. You'll know right away if it's for you or not for you. And if it is for you, then, get enrolled in licensing and, it'll be there. And if it's not, bounce out and enjoy Raleigh. So I thought, okay. So me and my wife took a couple vacation days, drove down to Raleigh, and sat in on the conference, and came back from conference and put in my 30-day notice. I was like, nope, this is the company for me. And the reason was I seen for the first time in my life, like I was in a room full of people. I met Delaney at the night out that night and talked to him for a little bit. And I saw a bunch of people that were truly free. They were actually free and happy. They weren't dreading going back to work after conference. They weren't having that pit in their gut. They were truly free with time and money. And they were able to dream as big as they wanted to. I saw them giving out the trips for the Dorado Beach, Puerto Rico trip at that time. And it was like a way better vacation than I had ever been on. And I saw people earning that. I saw people that were able to dream again. And I was at a spot for me where I think we all end up here at some point, where it's like you're a kid and you got these big dreams, but then as you become an adult, and whether you go to college or you get involved in a corporate job or whatever, your dreams keep getting whittled down smaller and smaller and smaller till one day you're at a spot where the only dream you have left is, I hope I can retire before I'm too old and too unhealthy and I get to enjoy life for a little bit. And that's kind of where I was at with the car business. I was at a spot where if I stayed in that path, life was not going to be enjoyable until retirement. I might have nice things. I might have nice cars. I might have nice houses, but life wasn't actually going to be enjoyable until I retired. And I wanted to be able to have that ability to dream again. So I came back from that conference, knocked out my license and put in my 30-day notice and officially started the year in April 1st of 2016. So kind of like back to, the ability to dream again, that is, I would say, is one of the biggest differences, right? Life gets very boring and mundane when your dreams don't get to be very big anymore, right? And I remember, there was a point in time when a dream of mine was to be able to move south. 2 years into Symmetry, we were able to, because I could work from anywhere, we were able to sell our house, move down to Nashville, Tennessee, just south of Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee for several years and live there. Then I remember I wanted to be able to have this dream of one day having a beach house, right? And then I got invited to the Symmetry Lake House. And it's like, well, beach house or lake house? And I'm like, both. I can dream big enough that I can have a beach house and a lake house. I don't have to choose between one or the other, right? So it's like being able to continually dream, like no matter what you're in, no matter what stage of the business you're in, the ability, you can see people ahead of you that came from the same place as you are, and they worked hard enough for a season to get to the next level. And because of that, you get to dream as big as you want, but also still be able to have a much better work-life balance in between there, right? Like, I mean, the $0 to $100,000 agencies, like that's the hardest part when you're trying to you're learning how to sell and then you're building your team, but then you get a $100,000 a month agency, the work-life balance gets better. But I remember even a spot of how life is different that really sticks out to me. I remember a couple of years back, it was an October morning in Nashville, Tennessee. It was just starting to get a little crisp and cool at night. And it was like, it was supposed to be in the 50s for a high the whole week. And I looked at my weather report. I got up in bed and I was drinking my coffee, and I looked at the weather report down in Pensacola, Florida, which was 6 hours south. And I saw it was supposed to be like mid to upper 80s there the whole week. And I thought, why am I working from here this week? So like we spur of the moment, loaded the car up, loaded the dogs up, shot down 6 hours south and worked from Pensacola for the next week. And where else would you really honestly have the ability to be able to just do that? You like wake up on a Saturday morning, you're like, you know what? I'm going to work from the beach next week and just pack up the car and go. So like that would be how I would say life is different. The best advice I would give is don't wait for the right circumstances and the right emotions to do what you're supposed to do, right? Like one of the success principles that I've learned over the years is successful people don't wait for the right circumstances to do the right things. They do the right things until they've created the right circumstances. I think so oftentimes, when we're starting in this business, everything is new. And because everything is new, everything is the most uncomfortable. And a lot of times we like to do this thing where we dip our toe in the water and we decide, well, once I'm more comfortable with the phone script, once I'm more comfortable handling objections, then I'll put in the right amount of activity, right? And then you never get there. You get more comfortable by putting in high amounts of activity until you talk to enough people that you become an expert, right? And, I think that's where most people go wrong is they prioritize their emotions or they prioritize their circumstances over where they really want to be. They want to dream, the Symmetry dream, but then they don't want to follow the recipe on how to get there. And what you have to do at the beginning is what you lack in skill, you you make up for an activity, right? One of the things that I tell my agents is this all the time. We're not selling lotions, potions, powders, and pills. We're selling life insurance. And the crazy thing about life insurance is it is one of the most bought things in the United States every single year. It doesn't matter what the economy is doing. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Life insurance ends up being the most bought thing in the United States every year. So if we're selling one of the most bought things in the United States every year, how would we fail? The only way we would fail is if we're not talking to enough people. Right? If you're talking to 50 to 100 people a week, you're going to sell life insurance, right? We have a thing in our agency. We have a little hoodie, the What's Up Fool, you want to buy some life insurance hoodie. And where that came from is we were at a Pittsburgh boot camp, and afterwards, Jordan Shank, Joe Martinez, and some of us, the Fitzgeralds, we were sitting around talking about, the scripts and the system. And I made the comment that the scripts and the system are all great. We have a great script, we have a great system, but none of those things will ever make up for lack of activity. And I said, I bet if an agent next week went out and talked to 100 people and they threw the script away and all they said is, what's up, fool, you want to buy some life insurance, they would sell some life insurance. And the one guy sitting at the bar said, you know what? I'm going to try that. Not that I'm saying I would recommend picking up the phone and saying, what's up, we need to buy some life insurance. But what he did was he went home and he sent out 100 Facebook messages that all it said is, what's up, fool, do you want to buy some life insurance? And, he had a little funny Ice-T the Rapper meme, right? And he has sold 8 policies. I can't remember what the APV is, 8 policies for like 7,800 APV off of that, right? So the principle being, if you talk to 100 people a week, you're going to sell some life insurance. You're going to find some of that low-hanging fruit that you just can't mess up. You're going to find some people that are like, as a matter of fact, I do need to buy some life insurance, right? But most people won't do that until they get good. Most people think that once they get good, then I'll talk to 100 people. And what that is, it's a priority problem. Like Jason Hayes, God rest his soul, we give out the Buffalo Spirit Award in his name. He used to have a saying, he said, stop saying you can't and just admit that you won't, right? He's like, because most of the time it's not a can't thing, it's a priority thing. Right. And the bottom line is, if I told anybody that's looking at this opportunity, and I talked to my people about this in interviews, if I said, if you don't talk to 100 people next week, they're going to come handcuff you and take you to jail. Is there anything that would stop you from talking to 100 people? Like, is there any emotion? Is there any circumstance? Is there anything you can think of in your mind that would stop you from talking to 100 people? You could break your cell phone and that wouldn't stop you from talking to 100 people. You would borrow your brother's cell phone if you had to not go to jail. Right? Because not going to jail is up here on a priority. It's like a top priority. Don't go to jail, right? But then you find out where your dreams and your goals and your paychecks, where are they priority-wise? Like, do they have the same level of urgency and priority as like not going to jail, right? And if you can learn to put your emotions as a low priority and how you feel about the phone script or how you feel about talking to people as a low priority, and you just talk to 50 to 100 people a week, every week for 90 days straight, your first 3 months, like, you can't mess this up. Like, I promise.